Welcome to the Spark Good podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration, strategies, and stories that will ignite your passion for making a difference through your business. I'm your host, Stephanie Malon-Rufi, and together we will dive into the world of entrepreneurship and small business and explore how we can harness its power to spark good and change how we do business. I believe in the incredible potential that business can have in making a positive social impact, and I want to help you discover how you can better align your business goals with meaningful causes and contribute to a better world. Plus, you'll learn how to nurture your own well-being, change traditional rules that might be holding you back, and thrive in your role as a social business owner. All right, let's dive in. Did you know that your mindset is truly one of your greatest assets in your business and in your life? I recently finished facilitating a small group series around the topic of mindset, mental wellness, and self-care. And this group was actually geared towards business owners, because learning about these topics, going deep into them, making small changes as needed can unlock so much greatness in yourself and your business. In fact, mindset is something that always comes up with clients I work with, although it is rarely, if ever, the reason someone works with me. I'm really excited for today's episode because I want to share with you what mindset is, what a growth mindset is, the top 6 benefits of adopting a growth mindset, and then what are some actions that you can take in order to bring you closer to embracing a growth mindset in your own life and business. Okay, first of all, what is mindset? Let's just make sure we are all on the same page with what this is. And mindset is really the set of beliefs that orient the way that we handle situations, the way that we sort out what's going on and what we should do about it, how we are reacting. Now, the key here, though, is, do you have a growth mindset? And when you have a growth mindset, you are adapting and living by the belief that people can keep learning throughout their life. And by learning, they are growing and expanding. So when you have a growth mindset, that is based also on the belief that you can cultivate your qualities and your talents and your intelligence through effort. And when you truly embrace a growth mindset, there are incredible benefits. Okay. And these benefits, they influence your personal relationships, professional relationships, and the way that you are showing up and running your business. So I want to get into the 6 benefits of adopting this growth mindset so you can see how it can be beneficial for you and for your business. So the first one is resilience. By adopting a growth mindset and working towards this, you are also going to increase your resilience. Why is this important? Well, it helps us to embrace challenges and setbacks that arise. We will never not have challenges, right? We're never not going to have setbacks that happen. That's life. But resilience helps us to better handle those, to take those situations, to view them as opportunities, to learn and grow from them, to reframe how we view failure. this can be so helpful. I especially, a lot of times with clients, I see this as when they might be handling external criticism or competitors, right? And we know that the more our business is growing, the more we are getting out there and being visible. That also increases, sometimes it increases the criticism that we might hear, and there might be some noise. And resilience helps us to weather that better and not take that in and put us back into a place of being small, right? Resilience, it's going to help us keep moving forward, keep being out there and living in alignment with yourself and with your business. The second benefit is innovation, being more innovative, being more willing to experiment, try new things, be curious. Those are all key characteristics of when you have a growth mindset. Always being willing to try something new, take a situation, look at it differently. So innovation can be so valuable in our businesses. Innovation is often what entrepreneurs, many of them already might be leaning towards being more innovative because they've created something that is new and different, right? So that's already sometimes a characteristic a lot of us come to our businesses with, but it's something we want to keep going with. So innovation can really keep us going forward and help us get to the next level. Third benefit is continuous learning. So when we have a growth mindset, we are more in the habit of continuous learning, improvement, always seeking new knowledge and skills to help improve the work that we're doing. So think about, what is it that you want to learn? Or conversely, what have you learned from past experience? This is really important. In fact, I have a story to kind of exemplify this a little bit better. This was a number of years ago, and I was working with someone. It was a very short-term situation. In fact, they had been in a program I was connected to, and working with me for a few sessions was a prize or reward of sorts. Well, there was a situation that this business owner had tried to get some funding and had a relationship with someone, and it really blew up in his face. And he was explaining this, what happened. And as I was listening, there were some things that he talked about that I thought, I wonder if that's something he would do again. So I asked him, I said, what have you learned from what happened? To which he said, nothing. And that was, to me, that's a red flag that shows that somebody is not in a growth mindset. It was not able to step back, look at the situation more objectively, recognize his own role in that, and learn from it. So I give this example so that you can think about how do you react, and also how do you reflect on situations, right? We need to reflect so that we can learn and do something different next time. Okay, the third benefit is adaptability. When we embrace a growth mindset, we're better equipped to adapt to changing external conditions. So we don't always have control with what is happening externally. The COVID pandemic, perfect example. There was very limited control, especially if you think about the early days that we had. But businesses, individuals who were able to adapt to the changing conditions to some of the new rules and regulations that were in place, even though temporary, we're able to do better, right? So adaptability is a really important characteristic to have as a business owner and in your business. And again, embracing a growth mindset helps you get there. All right. Fifth benefit, improved relationships. When we are in this growth mindset, we are more empathetic and understanding of others' perspectives. This can lead to having better communication, better collaborative partnerships, better interpersonal relationships. You can be a better leader for your team, a better partner, and you can also understand your client or customer even better and serve them better. Also, if you have a social impact in the world, you're more adept to understand the impact you're having and the needs of the place you want to have an impact. All of this, right, stems from shifting to this growth mindset. Allows you to become more empathetic, right? More understanding of other perspectives. And it improves so many relationships in our life. All right. And the sixth benefit, at least on my list, there are many benefits to a growth mindset. I am sharing with you what I think are the top 6 because it isn't, and these aren't just for you personally, but it also can show up in your business. And the 6th one is actually long-term success, longevity and sustainability for your business. So a growth mindset helps entrepreneurs, business owners to avoid complacency during periods of both success and perseverance during down times. So overall, that's going to increase your chances of long-term success. So there's really 2 parts of this. So one is it's easy to get complacent during periods of success. Things are going really well. Maybe we're at capacity. Okay. And maybe you don't want to find another avenue to grow. Sometimes as a business owner, this is great. I love what I'm doing. This is the place I want to be. I'm at capacity and it's awesome. And your goal is to continue going, but also not getting complacent, right? Because that's sometimes where we get cracks, where we are not showing up in the best way. Sometimes quality can deteriorate a little bit if we get too complacent in that area of success. So that's one piece. The second piece is that perseverance during downturns. So we've all probably seen those cartoons that are showing you are progressing on a path of your business and it's not a straight line. It is crooked. There are twists and turns, right? That's pretty real. The key is that when you're taking a turn, you're not turning so far that you're getting way off the path, right? That you are able to still twist back to move your business forward and following that bigger vision that you have. So again, long-term success is, I think, one of the ultimate benefits of adopting a growth mindset and realizing that it shows up both in times of great success and then sometimes when we have downturns. So my question to you, are you embracing a growth mindset? Do you see how this is showing up in your life? I'm going to talk through some ways that you can do this. So these are some tangible things that you can do and maybe you're doing. So the first thing is recognizing fixed mindset beliefs. So we've been talking about general mindset, growth mindset. The contrast to growth mindset is a fixed mindset where You don't think that things can change. You don't think you can personally change. This is just the way that it is. And this is the way that you are. So the first step is to become aware of fixed mindset thoughts and beliefs that you might have. Again, right, this is where you view your abilities and intelligence as being static. So when we can acknowledge that we have a fixed mindset, it's going to then help make a conscious effort to shift your perspective and move towards more of a growth mindset. So it's that awareness of, oh, I see how I'm reacting or perceiving this. And it's from more of a place of a fixed mindset. And how can I move more to a growth mindset? So just recognizing and having awareness of fixed mindset beliefs and patterns. Another one is recognizing and understanding mindset blocks. Now this goes in tandem, right, with fixed mindset, and seeing how they show up for you. And there's a lot we could get into here, but I'm just going to name a couple of those blocks that often happen, especially for business owners. Imposter syndrome, fear of failure, fear of success, seems counterintuitive, but it's a real thing. Scarcity mindset, also a big one that comes up. And could also be just having really negative scripting in our own heads. So these are just a few examples of some mindset blocks that really can also deter us, slow us down, take us off course. So identifying which ones show up for you, what it looks like, how to address it, super important. Okay, the next one is changing how we view challenges and failures, right? Viewing those more as opportunities. So instead of avoiding challenges or fearing that failure, seeing them again as that opportunity to learn and grow. You might have heard the phrase that when these events in life or seemingly, situations that are setting us back occur, looking at this is happening for me and not to me. Okay. So can you change the situation and say, okay, hello, here you are. I see you're happening for me. You're not happening to me. And how can I reframe this, right? How can I view this as an opportunity? Another way to embrace this growth mindset is to do a little more celebrating. And I don't mean celebrating like, oh, I hit this, revenue goal. I mean celebrating your effort and your progress. So you're actually shifting your focus from that big end result and focusing on the little steps that you are taking along the way, so that you're really valuing the hard work that you're doing, the fact that you're persistent, the fact that you're learning new lessons, and it's not only about that final outcome. The next one is seek feedback. Ooh, some people don't like feedback, right? Oh, I don't want to hear, they're very concerned about what they might hear. And so a lot of times it's because we take things very personally and we end up feeling badly if there's feedback that is perceived as not being totally positive. But the more we're able to open ourselves up to allow some of this constructive feedback in, to see it as a valuable source of information for our business, right? For what we're putting out into the world, for our own selves, and not take it personally, but rather see it as an opportunity to pivot, to refine, to improve. You can also see how doing that is going to increase that long-term success of the work that you're doing. All right, another area is the habit of continuous learning. So we talked about how important that action is and continuous learning and reflecting. And how can you build that habit? Maybe challenge yourself to acquire a new knowledge or a skill. Also, of course, reading books, taking courses, going to workshops, staying curious is really important. And also listening to podcasts. I have to say, for me, podcasts have been such an amazing tool for my own continuous learning. So there's no one way to do this, but how are you implementing a habit of continuous learning? In fact, in this group that I recently ran, one of the women said that her goal every day is to learn one new thing. And if you think about it, when we are growing up in school, we are learning lots. Usually we're learning many new things a day. And then all of a sudden it stops, right? Now we might start new jobs and there's learning curves and this and that, but we aren't actively in a situation or building a habit where we're learning something new every day. So how can you develop that habit currently in your life? Another important action is to surround yourself with growth-minded individuals. So as you're listening to this episode, and maybe you've already done this, maybe you've already identified some people who are more growth mindset and more maybe fixed mindset who are in your life. And the message here is to how can you cultivate more relationships, deeper relationships with growth-minded individuals. And because it can be very inspiring, very encouraging. And a lot of times when we are together with others, it exponentially increases what we're experiencing. So this often can happen too when you bring business owners together. There's several business owners that I connect with, and all of them are growth-minded. And it is such a game changer when you're able to have conversations with people who are viewing their world and their business in that framework. Okay, 2 more on this list. So the next one is this concept of practicing self-compassion. What? Self-compassion? My business? I don't see how this goes together. But hear me out. We need to be kind and forgiving with ourselves, right? So when there are setbacks, when we make mistakes are going to happen, right? That's part of the learning process. This, as I'm talking about this, actually, I'm thinking about another mindset block or topic that I often work with my clients on. And that is this procrastination, perfectionism loop. So perfectionism, that's probably another one you've heard of, right? A lot of us get caught in perfectionism. I can't put it out there. It's not perfect. I need to work on it more. I need to edit it again. I don't know, right? We get stuck, and it's called the perfectionism procrastination loop, because then we put it aside and go do something else, and we delay, which is what procrastination is. And then we go back to it because it has to be perfect. And when we need to break out of that loop, and often this is a key place where that self-compassion comes in, because breaking out of that loop means you're going to make a mistake. Something is going out there that is not going to be perfect, right? You've heard the phrase, done is better than perfect. So you have to give yourself some grace, be kind to yourself, be patient, and recognize that it is more beneficial for this to get out there than for it to be perfect. So acknowledge that. And it's going to feel uncomfortable, especially in the beginning. And actually, that's a good thing. When things like that are uncomfortable, it means that you're growing and expanding. So let yourself feel uncomfortable, acknowledge that it's there, sit with that, and keep doing it. Okay. And the last one on this list is this idea of staying persistent and consistent. So when we're embracing a growth mindset, it might not come naturally at first. There might be pieces of this that you really are going to keep running up against, that you're going to have to work through. And it might take time to rewire your thinking. I didn't even today get into the neuroscience of this, right? But we are actually able to develop new neural pathways in our brain, and that's rewiring our thinking. And potentially maybe that'll be a future episode, is really the science behind this. But it takes time. It takes practice. So we have to be persistent and we need to be consistent. So something, again, to think about, right? We talked about sort of the habits of of continuous learning. So how can you start pulling these things together and just being consistent in reframing, reorienting yourself to fully live and work in this growth mindset? All right. I realized there was a lot in here. When I first thought of this episode, I thought, oh yeah, kind of talk about those key benefits of a growth mindset. But as I really started putting this together, it kept flowing and going, and I hope that you maybe found a little bit of inspiration here, maybe a spark of inspiration. Is there something that you want to learn more about from what I talked about? Do you want to incorporate one different action? And maybe it's also that you need to stop doing a certain action. Is there something you're doing that is not helping you, that is preventing you from really moving more towards a growth mindset? So I just encourage you to take a moment of reflection, what popped into your head, and write it down and take some action and keep moving forward. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Spark Good podcast. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow to the podcast and leave a rating and review so more people can listen and find us. Also, let's connect. You can head over to my website at www.sparkgood.net, where you can subscribe to my mail list and set up a time for us to have a virtual coffee chat. Thank you for joining.